Okay, we are ready.
Great. This is the Marin Municipal Water District Communications Committee Board of Directors meeting for November 18th, 2020. I'm calling the meeting to order and I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
Do we need a roll call vote for this meeting to adopt the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
So Director Gibson,
Aye.
Director Russell,
Aye.
and Chair Kohler.
Aye. At this time, I'm looking for comment from any members of the public on any item not listed on the agenda.
We do not have any.
Okay. Moving on to our regular calendar, I'm looking for approval of the minutes of the last Communications Committee Board of Directors meeting of May 20th, 2020.
Again, move approval.
Second. Sorry.
And now a roll call vote.
Director Gibson,
Aye.
Director Russell,
Aye.
and Chair Kohler.
Aye. That brings us to item 2, water use efficiency and distributed infrastructure, my favorite subjects.
Good morning, directors. Carrie Pollard's going to give us a presentation today.
Give me just a moment while I pull up my presentation. Can you all see it?
Yep.
Yes.
Excellent. Good morning. So as mentioned, I'm going to give an update on our water efficiency programs, but we're actually going to start with distributed infrastructure, a brief discussion on what it is and kind of how it relates to the programs that the district has in place for water efficiency. So starting with types of infrastructure. So of course, this is not an exhaustive list of types of infrastructure, but it kind of sets the stage for the discussion. So starting with gray infrastructure, those are really our traditional solutions, right? So treatment facilities and stormwater systems and sewer systems, et cetera. And then looking at green infrastructure, those are really our natural ecosystems that act as forms of infrastructure. So those might be habitat restoration projects or rain gardens, and they really kind of focus on stormwater. And then finally, distributed infrastructure, which is these solutions tend to be located at or near the point of use and implemented widely across communities. They encompass a broad range of water supply, treatment, and also stormwater strategies. And you can see there's some examples listed there. So efficient fixtures, leak detection, rain barrels, and even gray water programs. So distributed infrastructure really looks for multi-benefit solutions and then tees up those benefits with stakeholders who also see those projects and programs as a win. The benefits of having those stakeholders in place is, cost sharing opportunities, but also community engagement and kind of bringing the community along as a project is developed, which certainly is beneficial. We want to acknowledge that, of course, all of these solutions are needed for reliable and safe drinking water, and they all have a strategic role to play within a utility and an organization, and that balancing the funding available within all of these is also equally important. So looking at the components of distributed infrastructure, it kind of broke it down into three categories: community engagement, incentives, and regulation. And so what we're going to do is look at how district programs in each of these categories really work together and to ensure the long-term water savings. So jumping first into regulations. So the district has a number of local regulations that we've put in place, and many of them have been very progressive over the years. Looking at our most recent accessory dwelling unit requirements, ensuring efficient fixtures are installed in those locations. Our indoor fixture standards, which were very progressive when they were adopted, and it'll be something else that we'll probably bring back to the board at some point because they've kind of aligned with Cal Green at this point. And so we can, if we want to continue to move the marker on indoor fixture standards, we want to look at updating those. More to come on that. Our gray water requirement is very progressive and something that again, we continue to move forward on and we'll look at as mentioned at prior discussions with our residential gray water initiative. And finally, landscape plan review. This exceeds the state standards for what we have, what we do locally exceeds the state standards, and again, kind of helps to move the marker around ensuring efficient use of water within our system. So not only do we have local regulations, we have state regulations that we're required to comply with, and in turn, are, those requirements are going to pass down to our customers or impact our customers' demand as well. And so the two main regulations that touch water efficiency and conservation are the 20% reduction by 2020, and of course the water use objectives, which is the making conservation the California way of life legislation, which we are kind of in the thick of right now. Jumping into community engagement. So we understand that, as I mentioned, having those stakeholders kind of on our side when it's time for implementation is very important. And a key portion or aspect of community engagement is education. And so starting with, of course, youth education, we want to teach them, our future water users, the importance of water and water conservation. And unfortunately, in COVID time, we have not been able to do any of our youth ed programs this year, but we do look forward to getting back to those when the time is right. Additional education would be customer assistance, right? So that's kind of adult education, helping customers understand their water use and, finding leaks and understanding, where there are opportunities for them to reduce their water use is important. During COVID, we're doing that on the phone or sometimes FaceTime if we need to kind of walk them through some, aspect that they need that direct interaction with. But really, for the most part, it would have been site visits. The website is actually really important as far as education as well. We're thrilled to see the new website launched and that we're really looking forward to having our customers really being able to easily find our program information and all the resources we have available without having to dig too deep like they've had to do in the past. Another important aspect is the Ion Water Portal, which is our AMI, online information system. And the Ion Water it's tremendously helpful. So it allows us to quickly, easily, and 100% remotely assist customers with seeing their water use. So during a CAP, we talk to a customer and we have their water use in front of us, and we're trying to walk them through and help them understand it. When they use the Ion Water Portal, they see it for themselves. And so it really makes the connection happen so much quicker and easier, and they can see for themselves that it's a leak or it's an irrigation issue or whatever it might be. So that's really been quite helpful. And on all of these aspects, we'll continue to lean on as we move forward. Partners and ambassadors, these are the folks we tap when we need to get something done that's beyond, our reach potentially, right? So, for example, College of Marin, who offers landscape training sessions and seminars on our new watershed approach to landscaping book, working with the Marin Master Gardeners who go out to folks' homes and do garden walks and walk them through how to irrigate plants and what types of plants they should be installing and how to convert their irrigation systems. All those are very important. And also folks like PG&E, who we've partnered with in the past for providing rebates for a number of fixtures, specifically clothes washers. Finally, community events, having allowing the community to see us, tabling at their, Earth Day events or the county fair or, something like Sustainable Fairfax, where they see us out there and they realize we are part of the community. And also they understand the work we do, which is very, very important. Of course, no community events this year, but we are looking forward to it down the road. Outdoor water use education. I think this is very important, right? Reducing landscape water use is really key to understanding and ensuring our long-term water savings. And so what's important about this type of education is that it's one thing to tell folks, we'll give you $1 per square foot to take out your lawn, but we really need to give them the resources to have them do it right, and so that it helps simplify the process for them. So it's providing inspirational gardens on our garden tour, or providing funding through a garden grant for a local community garden to be a model garden for them to get inspired by. Also providing plant lists and really those resources of where we want to be the place that they go to look for all of these resources when they're looking at considering changing their landscape, and also having training for professional landscapers so that when they decide they can't do it themselves and they don't want to do a DIY project, they know who to call to get the help that they need so that it's done, the new landscapes installed in an efficient manner. And then finally, we're going to talk about incentives. So the board may recall back in February, an item was brought before you to refresh a number of our incentive programs. And if that was approved, by May, they were ready to launch. And so I'm going to go through each of those programs and kind of give an update on the wins we've seen and then the challenges we've experienced as well. But first, I want to start with outreach because our communications team really has done a great job of providing some quality collateral to let the community know what's going on in our new programs. And so we've had them write a number of on the waterfront newsletter articles. They did a beautiful trifold brochure for us outlining the new programs. There were newspaper ads, in-store postcards at Urban Farm Store. We had bill stuffers. They had an extensive social media push with Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Nextdoor. It was very interesting. We actually saw through Nextdoor was our highest hit as far as asking folks who registered for our Greywater webinars where they heard about the program. And Nextdoor was number one. It was about a 4-to-1 compared to all the other social media. So rare, I think. I wouldn't think most people go to Nextdoor, but apparently our customers do. So that's great. Good to know, at least. So now I'm going to jump through each of the new programs and kind of give an update on what's happening with them. So starting with smart irrigation controllers. So the rebate program, a $100 rebate launched back in May, as I mentioned, total of 29 rebates to date. 100% of these rebates have gone to our residential customers. And so, that kind of tells us that we need to continue to notify our commercial customers because it's a huge opportunity for outdoor water savings within the commercial sector. And we don't want to overlook that opportunity. So that'll be something we'll look at down the road. The landscape your lawn. So this is our turf change out incentive, turf removal incentive. $1 per square foot. And then also as a separate program, we have a free material delivery. So you can, choose either the rebate or you can get the material delivered. There's a lovely photo here from one of our post inspections, which I think looks quite nice. Once it fills in, it'll be quite charming. And to date, we have $2,800 issued through this program. We haven't really seen the participation in this program we would hope. We only have 3 sites currently pre-approved and 1 site that's received the free materials. And so I'll mention at the end kind of what we plan on doing to address some of these, shortfalls or really the opportunities to get the word out or figure out what the barriers might be. Rain barrel rebate. We've had 5 rebates since May. One win we have seen, though, is that the average system capacity is 700 gallons, which is great. For the 5x50 rebate program for rain barrels, the average system capacity was 100 gallons. So there's definitely a marked improvement there. And, with the rainy season coming our way or happening now, it's a great time to start marketing this program and have customers start thinking about capturing some of that rainwater. High efficiency clothes washers. This has been a staple in our program offerings for well over a decade. In February, we changed the program. We actually reduced the rebate amount. And we've seen 50 rebates to date, and it's actually tracking at the same rate as we've seen in the past at the higher rebate amount. So tells me, reducing the rebate has not impacted participation in this program, and that's probably an appropriate amount where we're at now. There's another win we've seen is this laundry to landscape gray water training. So we've done 4 webinars. So originally this was designed to do a in-person, assisting customers in designing their laundry to landscape system. But, COVID, we transitioned to webinars quite smoothly. Average participation, average registration has been 51, which is quite a bit of interest, which is great. And then our average attendance has been 21. So we certainly expect some drop off, and it's reasonable, but it shows that there's quite a bit of interest, which is nice to see. Something that is somewhat disappointing is the kits. So in addition to offering these webinars, we provide $100 towards their gray water kit, and then the customer would, probably be required to pay about $65 to $70 for their contribution to the kit. We have not had any kits issued through this program.
Hmm.
The good news is we have all their contact info because we did Zoom webinars with them. And so we're going to send them a survey and find out kind of what are the barriers and why are they not pursuing it, or are they, still designing, or kind of what's going on. Why, we want to learn a little bit more about there's obvious that there's interest in this program, but we're not seeing kind of the follow through. And so why is that? Looking at the restaurant hardware rebate. So this is a water energy pilot funded by DWR. It's a 100% grant funded program. So for any fixture of restaurant buys, it's 100% of the cost is paid by DWR. It was awarded to the Sonoma Marin Saving Water Partnership. Due to COVID, the state did extend this program, which was great for us because with that extension, we received an application and was able to rebate a new ice machine as well for over $6,000. And so it's at Grillies in Mill Valley. So if any of you eat at Grillies, you can compliment them on their new ice machine. They're saving water and energy. So program totals for this program is a total of 9 fixtures with over $50,000 in grant funding. Again, it didn't cost the district anything to offer these incentives to our customers, which is quite nice. Finally, the water and energy savings analysis will be done by SWE, Center for Water and Energy Efficiency at UC Davis. So I look forward to seeing their analysis and that we can determine whether or not this is something we should continue to offer within the service area and whether or not it makes sense for us. So that's those are all the new programs we've launched. And as mentioned, some of them have been, seen some successes, and some of them we see there's opportunities to figure out what those barriers might be. So I'll be working with Jeannie to put together a survey. So this is separate from the gray water survey, with survey to our wide list of mailing folks that we have compiled over the years, and find out what the barriers might be. Is it COVID? Is it, the rebate's not high enough? Is it, they're distracted by everything else that's happening in their world, whatever it might be, right? We just don't know. We don't know right now why they're not participating. We'll look at the successes and opportunities based on that survey data, and then coordinate with communications to prepare a marketing plan so that, after the holidays, we can kind of hit the ground running early in 2021 to start pushing all these new programs. And we'll want to do this before we consider making changes, right? We want to establish a good baseline. We've only had these programs in place for 6 months. And it's, it's amid a pandemic. So, before we just start making changes, we want to kind of get a better understanding of what's going on. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Carrie. It's an impressive program. I am concerned, and you've definitely flagged it, about the relatively low rates of participation. And you've flagged some things, but I am wondering, you've been in this world for a long time. My sense is that we haven't. I think it's great that you're going to do this survey, because I think we need data to be understanding the situation. But I'd be interested in kind of what your instinct is. My sense is that we haven't really pushed these that hard. I mean, people always have stuff that they're distracted by in life, but conservation programs in other areas, have seen higher levels of success. So I'm just wondering if you've got an instinct, not to put you on the spot, but I guess I'm sort of putting you on the spot, just based on your long time working with these programs, because these seem like very, very modest, and in some cases, zero participation.
Yeah.
I would say that we probably could do more around outreach. And it was not intuitive to me to think that Nextdoor would have been our biggest hit. And so, are we looking in the right places? Are we promoting in the right places based on who we want to target? So I think I think the survey will be helpful. The pieces, the collateral that communications put together have been really, really well done. We just want to make sure we're hitting the right spot, and looking at our demographics a little bit more closely will probably help as well to inform where we should be targeting. But I think we can always do. I think we definitely could do more outreach and and figure out what might be the barrier. Lots of things going on in their worlds, but a lot of construction happening in the community as well. So yeah.
Do you do any tailoring of this particular project for an audience?
Yeah, I would, maybe Jeannie wants to go.
Yeah.
I really would lean on the communications folks, their expertise to
Yeah,
tailor.
so we absolutely tailor all of these things. We do a couple of things, right? First, we make sure we have collateral that explains them all as package, so people can just take a real look at everything that we have to offer. And then we really try to tailor and individualize things. One of the things that Carrie talked about was leave behinds for one of our partners. And I think the survey will also help us maybe refine some of the messaging,
Right,
figure out where people are, in this new sort of pandemic climate.
right.
But we have done quite a bit in terms of pushing, but maybe we're not pushing the right message. We need to really just work together to see if we can to make these programs really honestly more attractive to people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Carrie and I talked about this. We kind of talk about it a lot. So we're going to try and see what we can do in the beginning of the year, both looking at the programs offered and the approach. And the survey was one of the ideas that I had to sort of help us hone that a little bit better.
Right. It might help you take a particular project and then say, who would be the audience for this? And then
Exactly,
try to identify them. That seems to make sense.
Yeah, I think the survey is a great idea. Were you going to do it all online? Because I do think we have, even though we have been growing our email list, I think we still have a lot of people in our service area for whom we don't have emails. Am I right about that?
Well, we do have more phone numbers, for example, but we do have emails. But the other thing that we have specific to conservation that's a bit different is we have an email database, because we send out regular email newsletters for whether it's the weekly watering schedule or things of that nature. So Carrie and I talked about taking a real look at what we have in terms of getting that survey pushed out in the right way. So we're looking at maybe a multi-pronged approach there based on the information we have.
Okay. The other thought that I had, one thing that we've seen that's been very successful in other communities, and now I'm leaning on my Water Now experience, is pushing these programs out through community partners. And if there's one thing we seem to have, I see Carrie nodding, in Marin, it's an awful lot of NGOs and community organizations that might be good partners for either all or some subset of these programs. So some of that's going to be sort of the obvious, the master gardeners and the landscaping groups, but there's also civic organizations, even the Rotaries. I mean, there's just a lot of these groups. I mean, we just have such an engaged community. So I'd like to hear what thinking you guys are doing about basically putting together some sort of hub and spoke kind of outreach through sort of trusted community organizations that have their own networks that might be more effective than we are in reaching folks for some of these programs.
I mean, I think that's an excellent point. And in fact, when we move to the communications update, that's one of the components of the strategic plan that we'll be talking about, because I completely agree. It's just a really amazing network of partners that we can have. And we just need to sort of think more broadly when we build those community engagement programs. So it definitely sounds like we're on the same page. I mean, Carrie?
Yeah, no, I agree. I have to admit, I'm in Sonoma County. I would know who all those folks were to reach out to, and I would have a really good understanding of where there would be opportunities. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around, the groups in Marin and who are the folks that we can tap and we should be engaging with in a more meaningful way. So if you have suggestions, Cynthia, or any of you, certainly let us know, because I think that with COVID, it's even harder, right? I'm even further removed for the last 9 months. And so, if you have someone in mind, and I made a note of the Rotaries, of course, but if there's other specific NGOs, yeah,
Sure.
It would be a great opportunity. I'm sure they're all still meeting.
You may have some, but Emma might have some. She's been kind of doing a lot of this outreach for the last few years. So Emma might be a great resource. I mean, I don't know, Jeannie, do you guys, I'm not sure, does comms kind of keep a running list of NGO partners?
It's really, I'm laughing because it's interesting that these components are part of the strategic plan update that we'll talk about in more detail. And in fact, Emma and I were just talking about the rounds of outreach that were done previously with community groups and how we can expand on that and what was missing from that and how we can refine and hone it. So definitely high on our radar. And I think you'll definitely see that in the next update, that we're not only thinking about it, but we're trying to come up with a plan that is more proactive, honestly, and more consistent, because it's really about building relationships. You know, we can go in there and we can do presentations, but what we want is we want to develop with regularity relationships with these partners. And that's part of the goal, at least in our communications and there when we'll talk about community engagement.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. So maybe I don't want to take time on this call, but just based on how active they've been, I would early reach out to the Drawdown Marin folks because they are super active right now. And I think the connection between virtually all of these programs and the work that they're doing around, carbon and GHGs, emission reductions, it's a very strong overlap, and they've been incredibly successful, from what I can tell, in building email lists and getting people to come to their virtual meetings. I mean, they're really on it. And for those of you who were on at the meeting last night, I mean, I think this is the first time one of them actually showed up at a board meeting. So yay! So they're starting to connect with us, and so I think that's kind of an immediate opportunity. But there's lots of others. I mean, I feel like we definitely had a long list of these garden clubs. I'm just not sure they're the right place to go. I think, because I just think a lot of, at the risk of being a little, I just think a lot of regular people don't belong to garden clubs. And so I just want to make sure we're looking beyond, that kind of more traditional, partnership, looking at, some of the communities that are involved with, social equity, for example, because I think there's a strong equity component here. The more that we can do to support people, bringing down the cost of their water, the better they'll be in the long term. So I just think thinking a little bit more outside of the box than we have. And I know you are both excellent at that. So I'll leave it there.
I have a comment, Cynthia. I think before you guys beat yourself up for the low level of response, I think you basically have to look at this as a lost year. And I think you should focus on the future, not on the past. I don't even know if the survey is really worthwhile, because, things are just different. And I think that where you could gain a lot here, where the district could gain a lot, is having people focus on the district. That is, having your webinars and having the things. You said you got 52 people that signed up, or 51, something like that, for the Zoom meeting, but only 20 followed up, or something like 50 signed up, but only 20 followed up. I think, if you could get them to get the energy focused towards us and what we can do for them, I think we could gain a lot. And like I said, I wouldn't feel badly at all about the performance. I think you should just put all your expectations off for a year and kind of restart the clock at that point. Doesn't mean you do nothing now, but I wouldn't focus on why it's not happening this year. It's just a different year, in my opinion.
It's definitely a different year.
Fair enough. I think we're all focused on the future. So thanks for that, Larry. Okay. Any other board comments on this item? Okay. And I don't think we have any public comments on this.
That's correct. There are none.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to thank Carrie again. This was really helpful. And can you provide the slides to everybody?
Yeah.
They were great.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to Jeannie and the communications update.
Okay, let me just get my screen up. Okay, are we all good?
Yep.
Okay, fabulous. Well, good morning, everyone. Bright and early. Thank you for coming. So for today's update, we're going to talk just briefly about our new website and run through some of the features. then we're going to talk about something that we were just talking about a couple of minutes ago, the strategic outreach plan that we're developing, and then tie up with some next steps. So for website features, the website was always designed to be user-focused with easy navigation for our customers. And the new tile format, which you see here, is really designed to maximize on mobile. But in addition to that, what you'll see with this new website throughout the design is more visuals and more opportunities for videos, just a more engaging way to share the district's work and programs. We're really excited about that. Another feature of the website that you don't really see is that we'll have improved analytics and metrics. And I know, Cynthia, that's something that we've talked about before. So with this new backend, we'll be able to have greater insights so that we can really work on refining our messages and really do the very best that we can. So in addition to the streamlined access I mentioned, being able to access information in fewer clicks, we did make some improvements that I just want to highlight a couple of them here. With transparency in mind, we created a new financial section that really makes it easier for people to understand our budget details and to have clear access to audits, all those financial reports. And there's an example of one of the budget pages that you see there. We also added a section for education and outreach. In the old website, we didn't really have a clear portal to do that, but with the new website, we made sure we developed tools that will really help us tell our story more effectively. So we're excited about that. So in addition to an improved search feature, we're also looking at how we organize our information, because really transparency is about, in many ways, people being able to find things. And so what we really did was try to organize the website based around issues and information we knew our customers were looking for: customer services, watershed information, and conservation. So what you see here is how the information had been organized, and it's really a factor of the way the previous website was structured. But now we have the opportunity to really showcase and present the information in a much more engaging way. So some website features that you may not really see apparently until you click through it, is that all of the content and visuals have really been redone and updated. The last thing we wanted to do was launch a new site with the same old content. So we really tried to take the time to make it better. And that includes all of our online forums and really some new resources like fact sheets and FAQs. Director Gibson, we have a historical highlights sheet, and I really thought about you when we created that one.
Good.
So here, yeah, we like that one. What you see here is the district's overall fact sheet, and that's the front, and that's the back piece of it. So on the new website, what you'll see in its place is something that's just more visually engaging, that does talk a little bit about our history and our mission, but it also presents the information in a much more engaging and digestible way. So essentially, same or similar information, just done differently.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just a quick roll through of some of the website pages for you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So with the website completed, I wanted to spend a few minutes just talking about a strategic outreach plan that we're developing. So the overall goal here really is to create new opportunities to reach a broader audience. And that's all about community engagement and really illustrating the value of water in our lives and in our future. More than just the value of water, but everything that goes into the work that we do, really building a solid foundation of understanding among our community and our customers. So we're envisioning a comprehensive and multi-layered approach, really, an approach that shares not only our story, but our challenges and our opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So if you remember from the last meeting, we talked about a webinar on taste and odor. So what we did here is really take that feedback and think about how we can expand on it and really be a bit more ambitious to see what we can do in terms of this plan. So what we see here is developing a webinar series, with a variety of topics. For example, the From Tam to Tap topic talks about water quality, taste and odor, the complexities that go into really delivering water, more than just turning on the tap, really trying to build that good foundation of understanding. Sorry, losing my voice today. Another area, of course, we just talked about water efficiency and conservation, and really getting customers to understand and to buy in to the important role that they have in helping us sustainably manage our water supply. And of course, we want to devote some time to talking about our responsibility of protecting and preserving the watershed, from wildfire prevention to vegetation management and responsible recreation, really, especially with the numbers that we're seeing now on the watershed. That's an important component because everybody has a role to play in protecting the watershed. As we go into the 10-year financial plan, I'm sure webinars will be instrumental, especially in this climate, in getting people to understand what we're doing with that plan and how important that is to our future.
Mhm.
So a little bit about youth ambassadors. So we have a great school program on the watershed and with Carrie's team. And what we envision here is really an extension and building on that foundation by creating youth ambassadors. So currently our programs center around some fun stuff, right? The trout in the classroom, the watershed cleanups, and those are fantastic. What we want to do is think about focusing on the next generation of water industry leaders. And for us, that really starts with building a deeper understanding, appreciation for the value of water.
Mhm.
What we'd like to do is create connections with our youth that really underscore our investment, not only in our future, but in the future of our community and the industry. So this is one component of the plan that we are working on. So here's where we talked about partnerships, right? Community engagement partnerships, because Director Kohler is absolutely right. There's so much activity out there, and we need to find a more strategic way to tap into that, to identify and expand communication with key groups and stakeholders. And we welcome all of your feedback in terms of building this program. So what we really want to do is reach out proactively and consistently to groups like chambers, rotaries, young business professionals. We talked about some environmental groups. Director Kohler mentioned a few, education leaders, and really think about, okay, so how can we build partnerships, right? So it's more than just going in once with the presentation. It's becoming a regular part of the fabric of what they do. So more consistent presentations and really focusing on community conversations around the importance of safe, high quality water to our community.
Mhm.
So this component of the plan, editorial board meetings and media tours. So really it is designed to create, again, a better understanding, not just of the work that we do, but the essential importance of that work to our community. And editorial board meetings are a great place to start. Now, I was an editorial page editor for many years. And one of the things I really appreciated was when groups came in regularly, quarterly, to talk about what they were doing, their ambitions, their projects, their challenges, because really typically what happens is groups come in when there's some sort of a crisis or some sort of an issue. But the goal here is really to build relationships and understanding. And that happens with consistent board meetings. And we're thinking about doing some virtual tours, maybe tours of either water quality lab or our treatment plant, just to give a better understanding of some of the behind the scenes work that goes into it. In addition to that, and this is something I've talked about before, and we are working on it, we're getting much better, but we have some work to do here. We need to really build our social media platforms.
Mhm.
Media today is more than just about pushing out information. It's about creating relationships with folks, being responsive. So when there are issues percolating out there, we're there to respond and to properly educate people about really what's going on, whether it's with taste and odor or some other initiatives that we're working on. So in the past year, I think we've done a good job. From the baseline, maybe 33% increase across the board, but certainly we have some work to do. And I think increasingly, these platforms are going to be really, really important as we think about what to do next. Finally, just to kind of wrap up with some next steps. So we plan to maximize the website through engaging content and visuals. I mean, as far as we're concerned, the site is launched, but our work has only just begun. We're in the process of brainstorming about what kinds of content we can put up there to really be effective and share our work, share our story. And developing the strategic outreach plan is part of that, right? So whatever we do, we now have a far more effective tool in the new website to help us accomplish some of our goals. And then finally, of course, as mentioned, we're going to continue to grow our digital followers to share our story with the broadest audience possible. Well, that's my update for this morning. I'm happy to answer any questions and welcome your feedback.
All right.
That is great, Jeannie. Really, really impressive. And I'm so excited about the development of this plan. And you may have said, and I missed it, what's your target for completing the plan?
So we're working at it right now, as a matter of fact, and we're refining it the way, but we plan to hit the ground running in the beginning of the year. So early January, we've got holidays to contend with and all kinds of vacations. But what we've been doing in the past weeks prior to this meeting is I've been reaching out to some of my colleagues who do things like virtual tours and kind of trying to get their best practices and make sure that we tailor them for us here. So the work is already beginning. But we are definitely ready to go at the beginning of the year. We're really excited about this actually, because for the past few months, the website has been all consuming. Now we're ready to see what we can do.
Right. Oh, and I don't want to run past that. I mean, I don't think we really had a conversation about it. So I do want to congratulate you on the website. It's much cleaner.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
much easier to find things. It's really well done. My one question about the strategic plan is, I think it would be useful. So I totally hear that the work's ongoing and that you're really planning to ramp up in the beginning of the year. But in terms of sort of completing the plan itself, I think it would be useful for you to talk with us a little bit and maybe think through with your team about what kinds of performance metrics you want to set up for yourself. Like, what are the goals, or not for yourself, but I mean, for the district, for us as a board, for Ben and the leadership team, and, for the communications team. So, how do we, if we're sitting here next year, what makes us go, wow, that strategic plan, man, we hit it out of the park. It's been a massive success. So, how are you thinking about those performance metrics?
So we have actually started thinking about that. And I think participation is one thing, but really it's about building affinity and understanding. And that's a little harder to gauge. But I imagine as we go through things like our 10-year financial plan and listening to the feedback that we get, that will help us determine how well we're doing in terms of getting the message across, getting the right messaging across. But we definitely, I think, need to build in some hard metrics so that we can really look at data. And that's something we'll be talking and thinking about as we go forward. There are individual metrics that the plan will have, just like any other strategic plan. For example, with the editorial board, I think the proof is when they do an editorial, is it fair? Is it balanced? Do we feel good about that? We may not always agree, but I think what we want to do is make sure that the results that we do get are better and really reflect the work that goes into everything that we do. And that's just one example. So when we build the plan, each section has its own metrics and has its own sort of gauge for success. And I also want to stress really that as we move through the plan, and Emma and I talked about this, we have to be ready to adapt and change and adjust. Based on, for example, the feedback and questions we get on our first webinar, we're going to improve the second one. We want to know where the holes are, where the gaps are. We want to do our best to make sure that the message is getting across. So each of those will have its own set of metrics. And we're going to do our very best to develop really some hard data, some hard numbers, because I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah, I'm right with you on that. I know we've done some polling in the past. Have we, I feel like the last time we did this was before Ben started. Am I fantasizing about that? Are you thinking at all about doing some polling about public attitudes, sort of to provide a baseline that we can compare, in a year or two, and like, what have we been able to shift in public's thinking?
Definitely. In fact, we were just talking about the last time we did a poll, and I want to say that was 2017.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
Yeah, and Emma and I were talking about that because really it's helpful data, not only in just kicking off a plan, but it's fine to do the baseline, but I also think it's good to do a couple of touch-ins. I mean, really, polls are not that difficult to do these days, right? The key for us is going to be developing the right data set so that we can tap into our customers more effectively. One thing I want to add is that the new website has a feature for us to build that kind of a database. You can't really see it, you probably don't notice it, but it invites people to give us their information so that we can, and this is something that I think is missing right now, issue e-newsletters to customers built around initiatives, for example. Do regular SurveyMonkey polling to see how we're doing and what those attitudes are, and to really reassess how people get their information. And I think the pandemic has created some changes, but fundamentally, I think the digital platforms that we talked about will be the way to go. So I'm totally with you on surveying and surveying again throughout the process, not just the baseline, but touching in at different points to see how we're doing so we can improve.
Yeah, that'd be great. So when you have a chance, I just like to hear your thinking about, because there is a difference between a SurveyMonkey, which is very self-selected, and actually hiring a polling company. And I just think since it will have been 4 years since we've done a poll, and I'm sure we've got those results hanging around somewhere. I think starting with that poll from 4 years ago, using some identical questions so we can see if there's been a change, and then maybe adding some new ones. I think that would be enormously helpful for the board, and I think for the leadership team, to see how we're doing in terms of improving attitudes. And as far as the IJ, right, that is a different thing. I don't understand why it is they think that we're so terrible and not transparent. So I think we should probably plan on somebody, whether that's you or Ben or board members, we need to have coffee with them virtually, like, I don't know, every 6 weeks or so. Because it is baffling to me why they are so unhappy about this organization from a transparency perspective. I mean, I work with utilities all over the country, and it's one of the most transparent in the universe. So I'm frankly completely confused about what their issue is.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for them, but I do think that you're right, regular touch-ins, regular meetings, but I think once they develop a deeper understanding of what we do, because really newspapers are like so many companies, right? They're strapped and more people are doing more things. So for them to really focus on this agency before they head off and write an editorial might not be as easy with a smaller staff. So it's really, I think, upon us to work on building those relationships. And that's something we really are going to try to do, because I honestly believe that if they do have a good understanding of our work and really our opportunities and challenges, that relationship will definitely improve.
Yeah. I agree.
I think you're being overly optimistic, Jeannie.
Okay.
But I think Cynthia is exactly right. I mean, when's the last time we were at the editorial board?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah,
And
in the crisis, in the midst of the last rate increase, right?
Yeah, of course. So exactly what Jeannie described is what we're doing. Is when we need something, we go there, and we have a real opportunity. And I'm the most fresh voice in this area because I've been interviewed by the IJ, I have been reviewed by the editorial board, And one of the things that you should read the endorsement that was in the IJ before the election about me, where they reluctantly endorsed me. Well, of course, that didn't please me very much, but it's irrelevant in the big picture. What's important is they criticized us for being myopic. Like, well, guys, we're
Exactly.
a water utility. I mean, of course, we're going to focus on the water utility, right? Not on, what Bank of America is doing or what the low income housing is doing. And I think that part, I mean, I think you're being too generous, Jeannie, in the big picture of that when they understand what we do. Look, if they don't understand what we do by now, they're never going to understand it. However, with that said, there's a young gentleman named Will Houston, and Will is open-minded, very fair. He's a reincarnation of Mark Prado, and he is he's there to listen. He's the only IJ reporter I've ever had in my cell phone list of contacts, and he's somebody I feel comfortable speaking with because I think he gets caught up in the crap, the make headline crap, but not very much. And I think we should work hard I think both you and Ben at the minimum and probably the president of the board should have the same relationship level with Will Houston that I have. Now, mine wasn't necessarily developed in a familiar way, but it was by need, it was developed. And like I say, I'm more comfortable talking to Will than I was talking to Mark Prado. And I have tremendous respect for Mark Prado. So, I just think we should start pushing that.
Yeah,
I-
Will is,
Quickly,
I'm sorry, Ben, go ahead.
yeah, I would just quickly reflect that I really have seen, and I think partly it's Jeannie's background, it as being a reporter, the relationship there has really developed, and the board doesn't see it as much as I do of just the casual interactions that occur, bouncing ideas off her, letting her know he's thinking about this or thinking about this. So I do think along those lines, Larry, there's a lot to build on because that relationship, that connection is really formed.
Absolutely. And, you're correct. They're small, but they're not that small, Jeannie. They're part of a big company. And like, if you read the editorial today, I think, or yesterday, it comes out of LA, out of their group in LA, wrote the editorial in the IJ today. So they're bigger than you think they are. They're like, there used to be, what I recall, there were 60 reporters in the same newspapers that are currently part of this pool. That has been reduced to 8. And with 60, they would attend meetings like ours.
Mhm.
They don't do that anymore. Imagine how many meetings there are a week in the Bay Area, right? You got 60 cities or 160 cities or whatever it is, agencies. Every night there's probably 2 or 3 or 4 meetings, right? They used to attend all of those. Now they don't attend them anymore. However, I will say this, they love our streaming because I think they listen to most, if not all, of the meetings that occur via the streaming. And they beat me up a little bit in the interviews about the streaming until I explained that my reservations weren't about transparency, but about the $100,000 a year. And that kind of calmed them down a little. But, I would recommend that you start talking to Will Houston once a week. Instead of reacting to Will Houston's writing, I think we should try to help him.
Yep.
Direct it.
Just a little bit of trivia. So the IJ is owned by a group that owned the paper I used to work for. So there's been a lot of,
That's cool.
consolidation. I actually worked with Will's father. So
That's funny.
it is. And so he looks just like his dad. He does. I touch in with him. In fact, I owe him a call. He sent me a text after this meeting. So he's waiting for me to wrap it up. But
good. Well, I would suggest, Jeannie, and I'm glad you have a personal relationship. That's even better. I would suggest you think about touching base with him after every meeting. okay? Because, you know, they have these short fuses, as you're well aware. And, you know, you have a little window to get in your 2 bits, huh? And it's not their fault. They have a deadline. They have to get the thing out the door, and it's going to go out the door. There's not an issue. It's not going to be able to say, oh, I didn't get to that today. You know, no, that doesn't work. So just keep that in mind. You know, he's open. I've spoken to him as late as 11:30 at night, and not a problem whatsoever. So anyway, just I think this makes me even more excited about my thoughts on this, because with that relationship, work it, you know, make it happen.
And not to belabor this, and I think we're just about done, but I think Larry's point about where the IJ was coming from in their endorsements was interesting. To me, the more interesting article was the one they wrote after the election, where they were pretty open, I thought, in a way I don't think you usually see in newspapers, about how unhappy they were about the results, and that the 2 people that they, you know, I mean, obviously they endorsed Larry, but they were very, I thought, transparent in their disappointment about Monty winning, and about how that really, I mean, they gave a lot of airtime to the folks who weren't elected, and about how this really does indicate that the voters are, you know, endorsing, everything they don't like about the way we're running the district. So if you haven't taken a look at that article, I'd suggest that you do. And I think that would really be something we should think about as a starting off point for trying, for turning a new page with them within a year. And I'm completely with you, Jeannie. I mean, it's fine to disagree. It's fine if they have different views about, rates or whatever it is. I don't feel it's critical that they agree with us about everything, but I do feel that their view of us as non-responsive to the problems that are facing the county, that we're lazy, that we're stuck in some sort of dark age, that we're not we're not engaging with the public. I mean, just on the facts, I think they're way, way far off about so many things. And and like Larry, I'm glad to hear that you have a good relationship. And I think Will's a nice guy. I think he's, to me, the issue is not so much Will as much as the folks who are running that editorial page, who for some reason are just, I just think they're just factually in some kind of, very wrong, mistaken place about the organization that we are and what we do.
Yeah, and I
found
there's room for improvement there.
I found Dave Allen to be quite open. He's the head of the editorial board. So I think you can speak to him. I found him intellectually interesting. And I think there's a lot. I agree completely with you, Cynthia, about your comment about that article. I think you also need to be talking to Dick Spotswood. I wasn't that pleased with Spotwood's assessment when he said something to the effect, well, if you want the status quo, vote for Russell and for Monty. And if you don't, vote for Hobbs and Mark. So, I think that Dick could have done a lot more for us. That they seem to be, in my opinion, interested in change for change's sake without any real understanding of the role the water district plays in terms of community health and community welfare. I think that, and I attributed that to selling papers or trying to sell papers, but that could be wrong in my mind. But I wouldn't hesitate at all, Jeannie, in talking to Dave Allen if I were you. Now, I will tell you this. I sent Dave Allen a thank you note after they endorsed me. He didn't respond, which surprised me a little bit, but just FYI. But with that said, he was very friendly when we spoke.
Yeah, typically they won't respond on that kind of thing, just to maintain some level of objectivity.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. They don't want it in hard copy either, huh?
There is an interesting flip side, Director Russell, that maybe the public took their advice, right? To some extent, the majority may be rather good with how the district is going, right? So
they are, Ben.
Right,
That you can see that just from the election results,
Right.
In both cases, they spoke to exactly the same issue that, that the public with some exceptions, feels we're doing fine.
Right.
If you take a look at those emails from last night, the majority of them were aimed, in my opinion, at something we need to explain. People feel their rates have gone up because we are readjusting the way the rates are charged. And I think that needs to be explained, that I don't think the rates have gone up at all. We've just allocated the money to different collection means. And I think that's something that needs to be explained very clearly, because people are talking, I mean, Hobbs in our interview with the IJ said, well, I have to pay $150 a month if I don't use any water. Well, I don't think that's correct, especially not $150 a month. Maybe it may be $150 2 months, but that was the statement, $150 a month. And, you know, we're being, how should I put it? We have vulnerability in that area, you know, that we need to address this problem and explain what we're doing and explain why we're doing it over and over and over again until we've exhausted every avenue of explaining it.
Okay.
Okay. Unless we've got any more comments on this item, I think we've come to the end of our agenda, and we'll let everybody get on with their day.
Yes,
Thanks
we do not
again
have any
to,
comments.
Eugenie.
Thanks.
for-
Take care.
Okay,
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
thanks, everybody.